Hey y'all. Y'all see, I'm trying to get this light right so it could be just a little warm. Hey y'all, hey. I'm excited to be here on another episode of Thursday Thoughts. We are live, y'all, live, and it's a good thing. So let's give the people some time to join in. But in the meantime, as with all Thursday Thoughts, we started off by saying what we are thankful for. And today I am just thankful for my family. I really am. I am just thankful for my family. It's such a blessing to have them in my life, and I love them dearly. So I'm very thankful for that and thankful for my friends. So it's the people in your life that makes life so interesting and wonderful. So I'm very thankful for that. So in the comments, you all tell me, what are you thankful for on this Thursday Thoughts? What are you thankful for? Let's see. We have, hey Denise, hey Diva. On Instagram, we have Denise, we have Felicia, we have Guinevere. Hey y'all, check in. What are y'all thankful for on this rainy Thursday here in the Midwest, right? What are y'all thankful for? So while we have folks putting comments in on what they're thankful for, today's topic, we're talking about being impeccable with your words. Being impeccable. Hey Gail, how you doing? So Gail says she's thankful for waking up in the morning. Amen. If he don't do nothing else, he gave you the gift of the present, right? By waking us up. Amen. That's right, Gail. So be impeccable with your words. It sounds so simple, but you'll be surprised at how people are not impeccable with your words. So if you see me look down, it's because I'm referencing my notes, y'all. Now, be impeccable with your words. This is one of the 4 agreements from the book by, I think his name is Don Miguel Ruiz, or either it's Miguel Don Ruiz, one of those, but the last name is Ruiz. And it's the 4 agreements. It's a great book. I read it again and again and again. And when we talk about being impeccable with our words, it's really about being truthful to ourselves and others as we communicate. And let's face it, communication is a very challenging thing in today's society, right? Being able to convey your message to the other person. And one way of doing that is being impeccable with your words. So I'm going to go through and read you a couple things that we can think of when we talk about being impeccable with your words. So one thing when we talk about being impeccable with your words is don't go against yourself. Meaning if you know what you value and the situation comes up and you're like, ooh, I don't really want to do that. For example, let's say you have some girlfriends and your girlfriends want to go out. And they're like, I want to go out. And they're like, come on and go out with me. Come on and go out. And you're like, okay, I'll go. But on the inside, you don't really want to go. So you're going against yourself. When you are impeccable with your words, it allows us to fully align to what we really, really want in this world. And we're much happier, less stressful by just really speaking our own truth. And sometimes, we worry about what the other person is going to say. So, how many of you, oftentimes may not speak your truth because you may be worried what the other person is going to say? Hey, Stacy, thanks for joining. So, you may have somebody who's like, you know what, I'm not going to speak my truth because that other person, maybe they can't handle it. Another thing about being impeccable with your words is it aligns with taking responsibility for your actions, but not blaming yourself. Okay? So that means how many times I've been guilty of this, that you either did something you shouldn't have done, right? Or didn't do something you should have done. How many have been guilty of that? And when you're in that situation, you can beat yourself up. This is where they're talking about being impeccable with your words. You can beat yourself up and be like, oh my God, I wish I had just done. And I was guilty of that just this week because I was like thinking of my career in corporate America and the moves, how you're moving through your career. And when you reminisce on things like that and you're like, you know what, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And then if you start being negative with that, that's where it's important to be impeccable with your words. Because it's one thing to say, you know what, I'm accountable for the trajectory of my life and my career. I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them. You see, there's a difference versus you beating yourself up and saying, you know what, I just screwed up and I wasted all this time and now look at me. There's a big difference between, you know what, I'm here because of the choices I made, but I don't have to stay here. So being impeccable with your words, again, it's about the words you use, not just with other people, but what are the words you're using with yourself, right? So Stacey says, it's hard to speak your truth in the corporate environment. Girl. Amen. How many people can relate to that? How many people can relate? And then I have Gail. Gail says, that's definitely defines me because I'm a people pleaser. Yeah. So we have to be careful with that, you all, because you don't want to sacrifice yourself for others. Now, when we talk about the corporate arena, Stacey brought up a valid point. You can't, there are times when you can't speak your complete truth, your your naked truth. But you can speak your truth in a lot of situations. But it is a way that you have to do it, right? Let's face it. And then you have to know the culture. Because in some environments, I'll give you an example. I'll just put this out here. Let's say, a lot of companies have diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And I've done a study on this and I've taken classes on this and read tons of articles. And so they'll say, we are really, for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But then they just do a lot of what they call window dressing type of things, meaning they're giving you cultural awareness activities. You may have a lot of where they're teaching you about different cultures. So you may learn about African culture one week, or you're learning to taste food from a different culture or different dances, right? But diversity, equity, and inclusion is so much more than that. Are they willing to take a look at the pay scale? Are they willing to have conversations about how are you addressing leaders that are not equitably managing and leading their teams? When people aren't given equal opportunity to move up, are you really looking into and dissecting how diverse are your areas? How diverse do you want your organization to be? And what are you doing to make sure it is diverse? Because if you just go through, let's say you go through and you give people unbiased training, if those people take the unbiased training, but you're just educating them on the different biases that there are. If somebody has an unconscious bias, their unconscious bias, they're not going to know it's them. So you're educating them on the different ones they have, but they may not still be able to tie that to themselves. That's why organizations, it's so important that they do bias assessments where individuals can find out where my specific bias lies. And when I talk about being impeccable with your words and tying it back into diversity, equity, and inclusion, because a lot of organizations talk a good talk, but they don't walk a good walk. And in that instance, sometimes your voice is not going to be heard necessarily because they really some instances they really don't want to make that change, because in order to make that change they have to acknowledge that something is wrong. And unfortunately in a lot of organizations they don't necessarily really want to acknowledge what's wrong and start building to fix it, because then they take on feeling, I think they feel like the blame or the fault in that situation, if that makes sense. But yeah, so to Stacy's point, corporate America is a dicey area, but we have to find ways to use our voice. But you definitely have to be tactical and you have to know your cultural environment, because you can't always use your voice and do your complete truth. Because in the famous words of that actor, what's his name, Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. You know, some people just can't handle the truth. I'll just keep that 100. But how many of you can relate that sometimes you just can't speak it completely, right? But let's get into being impeccable with your words as much as possible in corporate America, but mostly making sure you're doing it with yourself. And it's, how about another one is, don't reject yourself. Don't reject yourself. Sometimes if you are, if you know you want to do something and you're like, you know what, it's too late in life for it, or it's too late for me to make that shift, for me to pivot in life, you're rejecting the part of you that really wants to do that thing, whatever that thing is, whether it's a new hobby, a new career, maybe you want to be an entrepreneur, whatever it is. You need to, if you need to start over and reset, it's never too late. But when you have a desire on the inside and you're not following up on it, you're rejecting yourself. And when you reject yourself, you know how you feel when somebody else rejects you, especially somebody that loves you or that you thought loved you, and you get rejected. You know how painful that is? It's actually painful like that when you reject yourself. It's just what happens is we don't, externally, we're not acknowledging it. In our conscious state, we're really not acknowledging that we've rejected ourselves because we haven't addressed that thing on the inside that we really want to do. We're not doing that. And so we have to be impeccable with our words. Another one was being intentional to be impeccable with your words. It will remove the emotional poison that exists within you. And that goes back to when you deny yourself certain things, when you ignore to express your emotion on how you feel. How many times have some of you, maybe you felt like, you know what, I'm angry, or that person hurt me, and you really don't sit with it to fully give yourself the grace and compassion to say, you know what, I was hurt by that. And here's why that hurt. Like really talk that thing out. But instead, we're so busy in day-to-day life, right? I mean, how many of you can relate? I know for a long time, if something hurt my feelings in some circumstances, I can suppress that hurt and keep myself busy, right? Keep myself busy right through it. But it hasn't gone anywhere. It'll sit there and it will fester. And so being impeccable with your words really means also acknowledging for self when something has hurt you, that you're speaking and naming that emotion and honoring yourself, because you don't honor yourself. You, in fact, you dishonor yourself when you don't acknowledge when you've been hurt, when you've been mistreated. So we've got to do better. We've got to, again, be impeccable with our words, right? And then here's one: don't lie to yourself. Don't judge yourself. Now, don't lie to yourself, and don't judge yourself. How many of you, because I've done it, where it could have been a situation where you were dating somebody and you were making excuses for their bad behavior. Their bad behavior could be why that person wasn't showing up when they should show up, you know. And you're like, well, I know they're so busy and, they're really a nice person. There you go, lying to yourself. Lying to yourself. And it's not about, saying they're a bad person, but you can acknowledge when somebody has bad behavior, right? So just don't lie to yourself. Or another way you could lie to yourself is if somebody does something and they act like it's not a big deal, but it hurts your feelings, and they ask you, you good? And you're like, yeah, I'm good. You've lied to them and you've kind of lied to yourself because you're really not good. So you need to be able to speak on that. Or some of us tell ourselves we good. Like I'm straight, I'm good. And you're not straight. You're not good. And because you're not good, it doesn't mean you have to judge yourself and put yourself down. Likewise, when we say judge yourself, if again, we talk about things we may have regret, you can look back and say and acknowledge what happened, but take the emotion out of it of being a judging about, pointing the finger at yourself in a bad way, because the past is gone. It's happened. And you don't want to beat yourself up over something you can't change. But there's a blessing in the lesson because you can learn from whatever that was that happened and you can grow, right? So how many of you have, had times in your life where maybe you beat yourself up? Maybe there was something that you look back like, oh my goodness, I hate I did that. And you're still spinning that story. Like every now and then that story comes up and you find yourself beating yourself up on that, using that storyline to beat yourself up. Listen to the words that you're speaking to yourself. How are you talking to yourself? Right? So just be careful of that and think about that. The next thing is, when we talk about being impeccable with your words, don't gossip. Don't gossip and don't use your words when you're jealous and angry and putting people down. I see this all the time on social media where somebody will post something and people can go in the comments and just be so nasty, like just nasty. And it's like people who are typically, and I've said this all the time, people who are happy with themselves, they don't attack other people. They don't attack other people. They don't find joy in being on somebody's page and saying nasty stuff about people or putting people down, right? Today, for example, I saw a post. It was so beautiful. There was an interracial couple and they were at some type of sporting event. I don't know if it was a baseball game or what, but they were at some type of sporting event. And so the girl, she was, watching, they were on a camera, on a kiss camera. So she had kissed her boyfriend. And then she looked back at the kiss camera and, she's pointing, she's all excited. And what happened was he had actually proposed to her. So it went across the thing where he was asking her, will you marry me? It was so beautiful. Anyway, she was so excited, jumping up and down all on camera. So some people in comments was like, oh, this is so beautiful. A lot of people was like, oh, this is beautiful. But then you had some people, the little trolls, who were like, yeah, that ain't gonna last. We'll see where they are in 2 years. Why would you say something like that? Do you know what I'm saying? Why would you say that? Now, Stacy said we are our own biggest critic. That is absolutely right. That is absolutely right. We are our own biggest critic. And what we have to learn to be is our biggest cheerleader. We have to. Because if you don't believe in you, nobody else is going to believe in you. Nobody else is going to believe in you. And unless you believe in yourself and love yourself, you're not going to be fully happy in life, because you're not even going to be living up to your fullest potential, because you can't. The lack of self-love and confidence alone is going to keep you hindered and act as an anchor to your weight, weighing you down, preventing you from being the fantastic, fabulous person that God made you to be. So, again, being impeccable with your words. And Gail said the same thing. Gail said, I'm definitely my biggest critic. Yeah. So we have to do better with that, y'all. The next thing is use positive words when speaking to yourself. We just was touching on that. Use positive words when speaking to yourself. Look yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, good morning, beautiful. We are about to have a remarkable day. Speaking to existence with you know what? Say to yourself, wherever you want to be. If it is, for me, y'all, those who know me, you know I love my beaches. I am so blessed and highly favored and excited to be living in my beach house, looking at the ocean and the sand. Or how about you just say, you know what? Good morning. You are worthy. You are loved. You are intelligent. And you have a voice that deserves to be heard and will be heard. When you start speaking positivity into yourself, there is remarkable transformation that will happen. It is. It will absolutely happen. Facts, y'all. Facts. Now, sometimes you can say the words and you not really feel it. You just keep saying the words until you really feel it. Because when you say those words enough, you'll start feeling it, and your actions are going to align with whatever that thing is that you are positive about. When it's the law of attraction. So you think and you believe, you will receive. It is so true. You can ask any successful person who has succeeded in something, and they'll tell you, you know what? I didn't give up, and I believed that that's what I deserve. If you talk to anybody, if you talk to some people and they tell you, you know, why they haven't reached where they want to go, it's because if you talk to them long enough, you'll find out they really didn't believe either one, that they deserved to be there to begin with, right? Maybe they felt like they didn't deserve it, or they just didn't believe it at all. They couldn't see it. And that's why you have to believe in yourself. And until you can feel it on the inside, you have to speak it into existence. You have to practice visualizing the person that you want to be and where you want to be in life. Because when you can see something, baby, listen, you can't be stopped. I mean, how many of you had a goal and you saw it and you were able to achieve it? How many of you had a goal? When I was getting my house, and when I made up in my mind I wanted my house, I saw myself in my house. I saw the furniture I wanted. I was very clear, very clear. I believed and had zero doubt that I wasn't going to get my house. Zero doubt. And had my house built from the ground up. When you believe in something, and that's why mindset is so important. That's why being impeccable with your words are so important, because words are powerful. Words can give life or they can bring death. Words will kill a dream. Negativity will sniff the energy right out the room. How many of y'all see people and you say good morning and they just like not even saying good morning? They just looking like they just sucked on the whole lemon, the whole morning, beginning of the morning. Or you come around some people and as soon as somebody walks in that's real negative, they suck the air out the room. How many times? It happens. So law of attraction, Felicia said the law of attraction is real. It absolutely is. Now let's get into this one. It says, affirmations can help you become impeccable with your words. So tonight, I want you all to commit. Write down one affirmation. And I want you to say that to yourself every morning when you wake up and before you go to bed. At least one. If you're committed to get yourself one affirmation, I want you to put a heart in the comments. One affirmation and say it in the morning and at night. One affirmation, y'all. And the next thing, it says, tell yourself how much you love yourself. When was the last time y'all told yourselves you love yourself? When you looked yourself in the mirror and said, girl, I love you. I love you. How many times? We don't. We don't really tell each other that. We don't tell ourselves that, right? We'll tell our partner that. We'll tell our children that. We'll tell our parents that. But when do you spend time telling yourself, I love you? You know, today I want you all y'all getting plenty of assignments today, okay? Plenty of assignments today. Another thing I want y'all to do, I want you to write a letter to yourself. Write a letter to yourself. Spend some time with that letter, and I want you to write it to your future self of who she's become and what she's accomplished and how wonderful her life is and how proud you are of her. Because you're worth it. And when you write that letter, you're starting to see, write how your life turned out, how beautiful it is, the things you want. I'm telling y'all, visualization is powerful, powerful. And if you struggle to see it, keep practicing, grow that muscle. The next thing, listen to the stories you tell yourself. Listen to the stories you tell yourself. If you're not where you want to be in life, what is the story you're telling yourself? What is the story you're telling yourself? And sometimes we have to sit with it. We have to sit with that sometimes. Listen to the stories that we're telling ourselves. Say, well, what? If I'm not happy, why am I not happy? What is it in my life that I'm not happy with? Start doing some real reflection. Being impeccable with your words. Getting deeper to the truth and to the core of who you are and learning how to speak to yourself and to others. Speaking so that you can share the most purest form of yourself. More importantly, with yourself, right? Because the 4 agreements are the agreements you make with yourself. But when you can be honest with yourself, you can be honest with others. I can remember when I was younger and I dated someone, and the person that I dated, they wanted to play cards because they played cards like their family. They had their own bar, so they used to go there after hours, and they used to play spades and all kind of stuff. And I was dead tired because at the time I was a bartender. Yes, y'all, I was a bartender too. So I was a bartender, but I just got off work and I was dead tired, y'all, dead tired. But he was like, he wanted to go there with his family. He was like, you want to go? I was like, yeah. I was not impeccable with my words. Listen, I paid for it because I was sitting up by the bar with my elbow on the bar. They sitting down at the table playing cards. I'm dozing off to sleep. I was miserable, but I wasn't impeccable with my words. I wasn't being truthful. I wasn't speaking my truth. And because of it, I was miserable. And I couldn't be mad at him because I was a goofy person who was like, yeah, I'll go. Right? So we have to be impeccable with our words. Hey, Vanessa. Vanessa said, I love myself. That's right. So, today, as we begin to wrap up our Thursday thoughts, I want to leave you all with a couple things, right? The first thing I want you to do is come up with one affirmation because we have to speak life into ourselves and be serious about it because there is power in what you believe to be true. There is power in what you believe to be true. So if you believe that you are not worthy of love, you will never receive love. If you believe that, you won't have financial freedom and an abundance of money to take care of all your needs plus some, you won't have it. If you believe, that you're not worthy to take up the spaces in the places that you put your feet, then you're always going to be shrunken. You're always going to be having less than. And because you don't believe in yourself, you don't trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you can't fully love yourself. And you can't operate and navigate and excel in life. It's just facts. Facts. And it all starts with self. So I want you all to commit to, again, that one affirmation. Make it a positive affirmation, a powerful one. And I want you to say it in the morning and at night. The second thing I want you to do is write that letter to yourself, to your future self, and tell her how fabulous she is. Describe how your life is. Describe the future state that you desire. Because once you can start seeing these things and put your thoughts and your energy in a direction, you will attract. Your actions will automatically start aligning to those things that you so desire because you believe it to be true, and it will be true. So tonight, that wraps up our Thursday Thoughts. I'm so grateful and thankful that you all have joined. If you have not already signed up, go to Instagram, click the link in the bio. For those of you on Instagram, sign up for the newsletter. We drop a monthly newsletter every month, totally free, because I love y'all. On Facebook, I think there's a link in my profile. You can click that link in the profile on Facebook, I think, and that should take you to where you can sign up for the newsletter. If not, just message me and I can get the link out to you. I want you all to be safe, be happy and blessed, and be impeccable with your words. All right. Have a good night, everybody.